Good morning. My name is Anita Koen, and I am the facilitating teacher for the Math 1 COP at South Central High School. The Math 1 COP consists of 4 teachers: Anita Koen, Tamara Harris, Carson Allred, and Rebecca Poole-Jernigan. The Community of Practice vision was derived from the R3 grant with a mission to recruit, reward, and retain teachers. The purpose of a COP is to investigate a problem of practice within a school, research possible strategies, and implement a cycle of inquiry to attack the problem. In our Math 1 COP, we do this. We research possible strategies and we discuss them. We implement the strategy that we choose. We collect data on that strategy, analyze our data using the cycle of inquiry, and then we let that data inform our instruction. This cycle is repeated multiple times during a semester. Our problem of practice is our low end of course Math 1 scores. By looking at the data from previous years, we realized that our Math 1 scores were the lowest in the county, and this made us sad because we don't believe that this is because of our demographics. We believe that all of our students can learn and grow mathematically. There are some things that we have learned along the way. In the first year of our COP, we learned that students who have difficulty in math can easily get lost in a math classroom. Therefore, we leveled our Math 1 classes, keeping them small. Secondly, we learned that not all students learn math at the same rate. So we implemented test corrections and retesting. Thirdly, we realized that consistent, fair, and high expectations are necessary for students to learn, so we implemented consistent classroom procedures for all of the Math 1 classrooms. And lastly, we realized that students have difficulty understanding directions on assignments, on classroom tests, and on end-of-course tests. So this first year, we focused on academic mathematical vocabulary. In our second year, we realized that our data showed us that the strategies from the first year were working, so we continued to use all of those strategies. We also realized that we were not using the cycle of inquiry very effectively, so we needed to better analyze our data and effectively inform our instruction using the cycle of inquiry. So to address this, we discussed the cycle of inquiry, we learned about the cycle of inquiry, and we implemented the cycle of inquiry. We used the theory of action that we created from our process to inform our instruction. In our third year, we developed the following research question: how will the targeted use of student-to-student discourse improve student achievement? We had realized that in order to build students' conceptual understanding, students needed to talk about their learning. If a student could explain a process or a procedure or their reasoning, then that would deepen their understanding of the math. This discourse could be student to teacher, or it could be student to student. But we knew we needed to move our classrooms from teacher-focused to student-focused. So we used the research-based strategy called talk moves, which is discourse, to have our students practice discourse with their peers and their teachers. Two events that led us to the development of our research question were the fact that Mr. Cannon, our principal, had applied for the I-4 project. The I-4 project concentrates on student discussion, student questioning, and student call-on procedures. He got accepted for this project, so he came to us and asked us if we would participate. As a COP, we had already decided that we would be focusing on student discourse this year, so we said, sure, we would be happy to participate. We also read the book 5 Practices for Orchestrating Productive Mathematics Discussion. This book helps teachers to facilitate productive mathematical discussions in their classrooms that come out of the students' mathematical thinking or the students' work. These discussions can bring to light contradictions that the students have. It can help develop mathematical understanding, and it can help develop critical thinking. The initial data that led us to narrow our focus was still our Math 1 EOC data. It had been coming up every year, but it was still not where we wanted it to be. So the types of data that we are currently collecting are our unit assessments, our vocabulary tests, the district common assessment data, student surveys, teacher reports, and we are collecting the data using our PowerSchool gradebook, all in learning, student work samples, collecting and analyzing our students' surveys, and collecting and analyzing our teacher reports. We've continued to use the data-driven dialogue And we also began using the 5 practices for orchestrating productive mathematics discussion as the research that has informed the data that we're collecting. So I'm going to tell you our story now. We've continued in year 1, we continued to use these procedures that we developed in year 1. These are those procedures. We leveled the Math 1 classes, incorporated test corrections and retesting. As a PLC, we began implementing the same expectations for the Math 1 classrooms. These expectations were no cell phone use, the same high expectations for high classes, medium classes, and low-level classes, unit vocabulary words and 4 square vocabulary cards, common reviews for assessments, and common assessments to include common vocabulary tests. We began the year constructing vocabulary lists for each unit. We front-loaded the vocabulary at the beginning of the unit. Students made flashcards early in the unit and turned them in for a grade and for feedback. As we taught the unit, we made sure that the students were using the vocabulary correctly in their discussions. A vocabulary test was given toward the end of the unit, and it included a matching section, a fill-in-the-blank section, and a short answer section. In year 2, we decided that we would continue with all of the strategies we used in year 1 and that we would look at our data closely using the cycle of inquiry from the book Data-Driven Dialogue. As we analyzed our data, we used our observations to unveil causal factors which led us to a theory of action for each assessment. We used the theory of action to inform our instruction. This information was used to remediate our students and to refine our lesson planning for the next semester. And now in year 3, this year as a group, we've decided that we're going to use the strategy of talk moves. We use the book, 5 Practices of Orchestrating Productive Mathematics Discussion. The talk moves include revoicing, asking a student to restate someone else's reasoning, asking students to apply their own reasoning to someone else's reasoning, prompting students for further participation, and using wait time. We're also using research from Mr. Cannon's I-4 project, which also comes from the 5 Practices book. The project includes quality questions and equitable call-on strategies. In our classroom, we use the talk move strategies during the first semester. We also use the I-4 strategies of asking quality questions and equitable call-on strategies. We struggled with knowing how to collect data and analyze it for these activities, but by the end of the first semester, we had met, discussed, and wrestled with our data problem. We finally came to a consensus that we would use student surveys and teacher reports to collect and analyze our data. We began to collaborate on the documents we needed to collect this data. We created these documents, but before we could use them, along came COVID-19. So with our instruction moving to remote learning, there were no DCAs, there were no more EOCs. We were unable to collect this data during the second semester. However, we did get our EOC data from the first semester. In the year 2018-2019, our proficiency in Math 1 at South Central was 24.4%. At the end of the fall semester of 2019, our proficiency in Math 1 had gone up to 40.3%. We raised our proficiency by 15.9 percentage points. So we know that our strategies were working, even though we didn't get to collect the data like we wanted to. In the future, the strategies that have been implemented for the last 3 years will continue to be used. Data on the talk moves and questioning strategies will be collected and analyzed. As the school year begins, the COP will need to review our decision about how often to give the surveys. Before COVID-19, we had decided to survey students and teacher reports at the end of each unit. The most important decision that we learned this school year was that moving from a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered classroom really works, and we have to begin to collect the data at the beginning of the school year. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. I hope that you have enjoyed it and have learned something from it.